Hello everyone, this is Gamer, and welcome back to the 39 Steps. Let's continue where we last left off, shall we? Grave news. Sir Walter Bullivant takes Hannay at his word, but fears Scudder's findings may have been a little off track. Yeah, we're on this one, sorry. Grave news. Saturday, 13th June 1914, Sir Walter's cottage, Artonswell. Oh, this table looks nice. Sir Walter awaited me in the dining room. The sight of him, so respectable and established and secure, the embodiment of law and government and all the conventions, took me aback and made me feel an interloper. He could have known the truth about me, or he wouldn't treat me like this. I simply could not accept his hospitality on false pretense.
I'm more obliged to you than I can say, but I'm bound to make things clear. I'm an innocent man, but I'm wanted by the police. I've got to tell you this, and I won't be surprised if you kick me out.
That's all right. Don't let that interfere with your appetite. We can talk about these things after dinner.
It made me almost hysterical to be sitting there, waited on by a footman and a sleek butler, and remember that I had been living for 3 weeks like a brigand, with every man's hand against me. Then we went to his study for coffee. I made up my mind that if I ever got rid of this business and had a house of my own, I would create just such a room. Then when the coffee cups were cleared away and we had got our cigars alight, he bade me get started with my yarn. Bade.
I've obeyed Harry's instructions, and the bribe he offered me was that you would tell me something to wake me up. I'm ready, Mr. Hannay.
I noticed with a start that he called me by my proper name. A ripping yarn. The Black Stone. Ooh, creepy eyes. The old man in the moorland house solemnized him. Again, I had to describe every detail of his appearance. How it began. I told of my boredom in London, and the night I had come back to find Scudder gibbering on my doorstep. I told him all Scudder had told me about Caroline's and the Foreign Office Conference, and that made him purse his lips and grin. The roadman. My day as the roadman excited him a bit. He made me describe the two fellows in the car very closely, and seemed to be raking back in his memory. He grew merry again when he heard of the fate of that ass Jopley. I guess he didn't like him either. The murder. Then I got to the murder, and he grew solemn again. He heard all about the milkman and my time at Galloway, and my deciphering Scudder's notes at the end. He drew a breath when I whipped the little book from my pocket. Meeting Sir Harry. I described my meeting with Sir Harry and the speeches at the hall. At that he laughed uproariously. I guess Sir Harry wasn't good at speeches, huh? Reminds me of public speaking class.
You may dismiss the police from your mind. You're in no danger from the law of this land.
Great Scott! Have they got the murderer?
No. But for the last fortnight, they've dropped you from the list of possibles.
Why?
Principally because I received a letter from Scudder. I knew something of the man, and he did several jobs for me. He was half crank, half genius, but he was wholly honest. Trouble about him was his partiality for playing a lone hand. That made him pretty well useless in any secret service. A pity, for he had uncommon gifts. I think he was the bravest man in the world, for he was always shivering with fright, and yet nothing would choke him off. I had a letter from him on the 31st of May.
But he had been dead a week by then.
The letter was written and posted on the 23rd. He evidently did not anticipate an immediate decease. His communications usually took a week to reach me, for they were sent undercover to Spain and then to Newcastle. He had a mania, you know, for concealing his tracks.
He got up and crossed the room to a cabinet, bringing back Scudder's letter. Sir Walter, I am in the gravest danger. My worst fears have been realized. My enemies are here in London. They have made themselves known. I cannot write more in case these words be intercepted, but I have found shelter with a good friend who lives near Portland Place. God willing, you will hear from me before the 15th June. Your servant, Franklin P. Scudder. Oh.
I think his object was to clear you if anything happened. But when I got it, I went to Scotland Yard, went over the details of the inquest, and concluded that you were the friend. We made inquiries about you, Mr. Hannay, and found you were respectable. I thought I knew the motives for your disappearance, not only the police, the other one, too. And when I got Harry's scrawl, I guessed at the rest. I've been expecting you any time this past week.
Thank heavens.
You can imagine what a load this took off my mind. I felt a free man once more.
Now, let us have the little notebook.
Whew, good. So I don't worry about the police. But I still have to worry about the Blackstone Society, though. It took us a good hour to work through it. His face was very grave before he had finished it, and he sat silent for a while. Uh-oh. What's wrong?
I don't know what to make of it. He's right about one thing. What is going to happen the day after tomorrow? How the devil can it have got known? That is ugly enough in itself. But all this about war and the Black Stone, it reads like some wild melodrama. If only I had more confidence in Scudder's judgment. Trouble about him was that he was too romantic. He had the artistic temperament and wanted a story to be better than God meant it to be. He had a lot of odd biases, too. Jews, for example, made him see red. Jews and the high finance. The Black Stone. Der Schwarze Stein. Yeah, it's like a penny novelette. And all this stuff about Karolides. That is the weak part of the tale, for I happen to know that the virtuous Karolides is likely to outlast us both. There's no state in Europe that wants him gone. Besides, he's just been playing up to Berlin and Vienna and giving my chief some uneasy moments. No. Scudder's gone off the track there. Frankly, Hannay, I don't believe that part of his story. There's some nasty business afoot, and he found out too much and lost his life over it. But I'm ready to take my oath that it's ordinary spy work. A certain great European power makes a hobby of her spy system, and her methods are not too particular. Since she pays by piecework, her blackguards are not likely to stick at a murder or two. They want our naval dispositions for their collection at the Marineamt. But they'll be pigeonholed, nothing more.
There's a trunk call from London, Sir Walter. It's Mr. Heath, and he wants to speak to you personally.
Huh, Karolides, huh? My host went off to the telephone. He returned in 5 minutes with a whitish face. Uh-oh. That does not mean good news.
I apologize to the shade of Scudder. Karolides was shot dead this evening at a few minutes after 7.
Oh God. That's not good. The Black Stone. The foreign office's meeting with Royer. Royer is brought forward in a bid to derail the Blackstone's plot. I thought Karolides was a place, the Blackstone. Karolides was a person, and now they're dead. Sunday, 14th June, 1914. Sir Walter's cottage. Artonswell. It's broad daylight. I came down to breakfast next morning after 8 hours of blessed dreamless sleep. How can you sleep after someone just died? Well, then again, he went through a lot. I found Sir Walter decoding a telegram in the midst of muffins and marmalade. His fresh rosiness of yesterday seemed, I thought, tarnished.
I had a busy hour on the telephone after you went to bed. I got my chief to speak to the First Lord and the Secretary for War, and they're bringing Roy over a day sooner. Now, this wire clinches it. He'll be in London at 5. Odd that the code word for a sous chef d'etat major general should be porker.
Is porker, is that supposed to be a fat joke? He directed me to the hot dishes and went on.
Not that I think it'll do much good. If your friends were clever enough to find out the first arrangement, they're clever enough to discover the change. I would give my head to know where the leak is. We believed there were only 5 men in England who knew about Royer's visit, and you may be certain there were fewer in France, for they manage these things better there.
The Wire. Page 1. Royer dines with my chief, and then comes to my house where 4 people will see him. Woodtaker from the Admiralty, myself, Sir Andrew Drew, and General Winstanley. Page 2. At my house he will get a certain document from Woodtaker, and after that he will be motored to Portsmouth, where a destroyer will take him to Havre. I probably said that word wrong. I apologize. Page 3. He will never be left unattended for a moment till he is safe on French soil. The same with Whittaker till he meets Royer. Oh, so they were supposed to meet in France, huh? Okay then.
That is the best we can do. And it's hard to see how there can be any miscarriage. But I don't mind admitting that I'm horribly nervous. This murder of Karolides will play the deuce in the chancelleries of Europe.
Hannay? Monologue? Oh no.
Hannay, can you drive a car?
Why, yes.
Well, you'll be my chauffeur today and wear Hudson's rig. You're about his size. You have a hand in this business and we're taking no risks. There are desperate men against us who will not respect the country retreat of an overworked official.
It was a soft, breathless June morning, with the promise of sultriness later, but it was delicious enough swinging through the little towns with their freshly watered streets and past the summer gardens of the Thames Valley. Back in London, there's the Big Ben. It's good to be back in London. I landed Sir Walter at his house at Queen Anne's Gate, punctually by 11:30. The first thing he did was take me round to Scotland Yard. There we saw a fine gentleman with a clean-shaven lawyer's face.
McGillivray, I've brought you the Portland Place murderer.
The reply was a wry smile.
It would have been a welcome present, Bullivant. This, I presume, is Mr. Richard Hannay, who for some days greatly interested my department.
Mr. Hannay will interest it again. He has much to tell you, but not today. For certain grave reasons, his tale must wait for 4 hours. Then, I can promise you, you will be entertained and possibly edified. I want you to assure Mr. Hannay that he will suffer no further inconvenience.
This assurance was promptly given.
You can take up your life where you left off. Your flat, which probably you no longer wish to occupy, is waiting for you, and your man is still there. As you were never publicly accused, we considered that there was no need of a public exculpation. But on that, of course, you must please yourself.
McGillivray, we may want your assistance later on. Come and see me tomorrow, Hannay. I needn't tell you to keep deadly quiet. If I were you, I would go to bed, for you must have considerable arrears of sleep to overtake. You'd better lie low, for if one of your Black Stone friends saw you, there might be trouble.
Of course.
It was very pleasant to be a free man, able to go where I wanted. Yeah, you're free, but you're still not free from getting killed. The Black Stone is after you, dude. You gotta think carefully. A free man. Yeah, you're a free man, dude, but you still gotta be careful. They're trying to kill you, dude. You know that, right? Free man. A free man. I had only been a month under the ban of the law, and it was quite enough for me. Yet, I felt curiously at a loose end. I felt that great things, tremendous things, were happening or about to happen, and I, who was the cogwheel of the whole business, was out of it. I wouldn't say you're out of it. Midday. I went to the Savoy Lounge, ordered very carefully a very good luncheon, and then smoked the best cigar the house could provide. But I was still feeling nervous. When I saw anybody look at me in the lounge, I grew shy and wondered if they were thinking about the murder. Oh, yeah, all that publicity, huh? Apartment. I didn't feel like going back to my flat. That had to be faced sometime. But as I still had sufficient money, I thought I would put it off till next morning and go to a hotel for the night. There you go, you smart man. That's the smartest thing to do. Go to a hotel, not your place. Afternoon. I took a taxi and drove miles away up into North London. I walked back through fields and lines of villas and terraces, and then slums and mean streets, and it took me pretty nearly 2 hours. Already read the apartment. Alright, evening. I dined at a restaurant in Germain Street. I was no longer hungry and let several courses pass untasted. I drank the best part of a bottle of Burgundy, but it did nothing to cheer me. An abominable restlessness had taken possession of me. It's nervousness. All that nervousness, man. I don't blame you. Ooh, it looks pretty. Here I was, A very ordinary fellow with no particular brains, and yet I was convinced that somehow I was needed to help this business through. That without me, it would all go to blazes. I told myself it was sheer silly consent that 4 or 5 of the cleverest people living, with all the might of the British Empire at their back, had the job in hand. Yet I couldn't be convinced. It seemed as if a voice kept speaking in my ear, telling me to be up and doing, or I would never sleep again. The upshot was that about 9:30, I made up my mind to go to Queen Anne's Gate. Very likely I would not be admitted, but it would ease my conscience to try. On my way, I passed a group of young men. They were in evening dress, had been dining somewhere, and were going to a music hall. One of them was Marmaduke Jopley. Oh boy.
By God, the murderer! Here, you fellows hold him! That's Hannay, the man who did the Portland Place murder!
I wasn't looking for trouble, but my ill temper made me play the fool, and the sight of Marmy's imbecile face was more than I could bear.
What's going on here?
Oh, this man is the Portland Place murderer!
Damn it all! Make the fellow shut up! I advise you to leave me alone, Constable. Scotland Yard knows all about me, and you'll get a proper wigging if you interfere.
You've got to come along with me, young man. I saw you strike that gentleman cruel hard. You began it too, for he wasn't doing nothing. I've seen you. You best go quietly, or I'll have to fix you up. Watch him! Right, come back here!
I have a very fair turn of speed, and that night I had wings. In a jiffy, I was in Pall Mall and had turned down towards St. James Park. Happily, there were few people about and no one tried to stop me. I was stalking all on getting to Queen Anne's Gate.
I must see Sir Walter. My business is desperately important.
That butler was a great man. Without moving a muscle, he held the door open and then shut it behind me.
Sir Walter is engaged, sir, and I have orders to admit no one. Perhaps you will wait.
See here. There's trouble about, and I'm in it. But Sir Walter knows, and I'm working for him. If anyone comes and asks if I'm here, tell him a lie.
I was seated and told to wait. He returned to the door and with a face like a graven image waited to be questioned.
This is the house of Sir Walter Bullivant, and I am under the strictest orders not to let anyone, no matter who, interrupt his office.
Newspaper. Greek premier assassinated. Oh boy. A lot of reading. Let me get a drink. Okay. Horror descended on Whitehall last night after Greek Prime Minister Konstantin Karalis was shot dead in London. The murder took place around 7 p.m. in a private apartment in Horse Guards where the Greek Premier was staying at the invitation of the Foreign Office. Although the area around St. James Park was busy at the time, Scotland Yard has released no details of the suspect, and the assassin remains at large. Karalis was alone at the time of the shooting, and no direct witnesses to the act have been established. Police and security agents have yet to confirm whether the shooter was located in the room or fired from an adjacent building. Questions are already being raised about the security arrangements for the visit. Sir Humphrey Bullingstone, the HR member for Harrow, declared that it is a disgrace to the fine name of Her Majesty's government that a serving head of state can be murdered in cold blood in such close proximity to the king's residence. Armed security at Buckingham Palace and Downing Street has been increased as a precaution. Carolee's visit was thought to concern his recent call for a major international conference to settle the ongoing territorial claims that continue to beset the Balkans. The visit may also have included discussion about potential British assistance to secure Greek claims over various Ottoman islands and the Aegean, although War Minister Drew has repeatedly insisted that Her Majesty's government does not intend to send the Mediterranean fleet to intervene. Motivations for the assassination were unclear, and Caroles is known to have had numerous enemies. Ottoman influences are a likely candidate, although relations between Caroles and the Porte were relatively cordial. Compared with his predecessors, Berlin's efforts to form an alliance with Bulgaria and his long-standing relationship with the Ottomans have led to a tense relationship between Berlin and Athens. German Foreign Minister Scholted, recently described Caroles as a milestone around the necks of the Greeks. Okay, let me take another drink. Drink of water. A lot of reading. The German theory has supporters within Parliament. Sir Humphrey has already suggested that we will most likely find the hand of the Kaiser somewhere near the trigger of the gun. Sir Walter Bullivant, permanent secretary at the Foreign Office, reacted with shock and fury to the events of last night and told this newspaper that this is an appalling act of political murder within the very heart of our government, and we will leave no stone. Sorry, I had a yawn. And we will leave no stone unturned to catch those responsible. I'm not bored, guys. It's a lot of reading going on. And still a lot of reading. Sir Walter also extolled the influence of Caroles as a steady rock in the volatile world of Balkan politics. The tireless work of Constantine Caroles in search of peaceful solutions to the Eastern question has been without compare in recent years, explains Sir Walter. We must ensure to continue the spirit of his work. Alright, last one. Privately, however, the Foreign Office is thought to be deeply concerned that, in the absence of Caroles, the situation in the region will deteriorate yet further. The fate of the international conference that Caroles had called for is also unknown. Although in the absence of a respected strong man, it appears unlikely that such an affair will go ahead in the immediate future. That was a lot of reading. Done. I hadn't waited long till there came another ring at the bell. The butler made no bones about admitting this new visitor. I recognized the first Sea Lord, the man, they say, they made the new British Navy. He passed my alcove and was ushered into a room at the back of the hall. As the door opened, I could hear the sound of low voices. It shut, and I was left alone again. For 20 minutes, I sat there, wondering what I was to do next. Then the door of the back room opened, and the first Sea Lord came out. He walked past me, and in the passing, he glanced in my direction, and for a second, we looked each other in the face. I have never seen the great man before, and he had never seen me. But in that fraction of time, something sprang into his eyes, and that something was recognition. You can't mistake it. It is a flicker, a spark of light, a minute shade of difference, which means one thing, and one thing only.
Lewis residence. How may I help you?
Is his lordship at home?
His lordship returned half an hour ago and has gone to bed. He's not very well tonight. Will you leave him a message, sir?
I knew it.
Not a moment could be lost, so I marched boldly to the door of that back room and entered without knocking. Oh, the black guys again. Oh no. Oh my god. Was that guy who walked by Hannay, was he the leader of the Black Stones? Anywho, we'll find that on the next video of the 39 steps. If you like this video, please give this video a like, comment on this video on how you like the game so far, subscribe to the channel to see more game videos like these. Alright, this has been Gamer. Peace out, and I'll definitely see you on the next episode of the 39 steps. Bye everyone.